G'day folks, just had a look at the previous intro and realised how terrible my right eye looks. It's fine, it's healing, it's getting better, not a drama. This video is about me trying to make a device to hold a camera or a phone on my turret via this M6 thread here. That's normally an oil hole, it's just a bolt in it so you could see it. And we'll have a look at my DIY collet closer that I use on the Hercus, and we'll have a look at the M6 thread being cut, photographed normally with a stationary camera and with a camera that's travelling with the turret. So let's get on with it. Here's the iPhone as I've used it before to take videos. It's much lighter than my other Canons and might do the job. Here you can see it taking a video. It's doing a good job, but through the canopy, which is just perspex, it looks a bit flat. There's the M6 thread that I'm hoping to use to put the ball and socket on, and there's the sort of ball and socket and camera holder that I've come up with. But I need to make a brass fitting. It's got the standard camera quarter BSW one end and the M6 on the other. Don't need all that thread, so I thought I'd put a boss on it. Then I realised I didn't need a boss on it, I'd just leave more hex. So that was the final design I went with. I thought for this job I'd set up the 5C collet. I had to have a 5C collet holder made up specially for the Hercus. As you can see, a 5C collet won't fit in the spindle. So I use a drawbar and an adapter. There's the drawbar. There's the adapter that screws onto the drawbar, and then the 5C collet screws into that, as you'll see in a moment. And that of course gets screwed in when the nose piece that accepts the 5C collet is in place. This is a look at the back end. This is the thread that opens and closes. Well, it doesn't so much as open and close. It'll pull the collet closed, but what it won't do is force the collet back out so that you can release it. Quite often you have to give it a bit of a bang with your hand to make sure it comes out of the collet. The brass that I had to use for this job was too big. It was tight on the corners. I actually couldn't move it once it was put in the collet. So I attacked the collet with a stone. There you can see it's all fully assembled. And there's the back end as it's set up on the lathe, with the bolt there holding it all still while the handle moves it back and forth. The turret on the lathe didn't want to work, so I ended up doing this in my manual lathe and just using dies to cut the threads. There's the thing on top of the turret and it all looks pretty terrible. So here we are cutting a thread. No, to start off with, we're actually trimming the quarter brass down to 6mm, and then we'll cut the M6 thread. This is just using my normal DSLR to photograph the thread cutting as I would normally do. Speed it up a bit here. Now we've gone back to 3000 RPM just to put a chamfer on the end. That chamfer should have gone the other way because you can see that little furry bit on the end there. If I'd cut it the opposite direction, that wouldn't have happened. Here's a look at the profile. The top and bottom are in focus, which I think you can see. And now the very top towards you is in focus, but the LED lights just make it look pretty ordinary. So that's the setup that I've got. Let's see what it did in making a video. This is the 3000 RPM, cutting it down to 6mm to start with, and at 3000 RPM you can see we've got terrible vibrations taking place that are making it look absolutely horrible. Now slowing it down to 1000 RPM to cut the thread, it sort of looks like if I can make it work a bit better, there might be some promise there. think you can see it's cutting on the front flank of the insert. I think it's 10 cuts overall I took to get this down to size using a full form insert. And there's the final cut, which cuts on both sides of the insert. And that's it wearing a nut. So, thinking that we really need a decent redesign of this thing, I saw these two M3 bolts and wondered if they couldn't be used in some way to hold a more rigid bracket in place. And this is the design that I came up with, and I'm hoping that it will be quite reasonable. So, thank you for watching.